Coming up on The Merge Out Loud, Ed Kowalczyk is in the Merge Studios with Tower. Stay tuned.
Hey, welcome to The Merge Out Loud. My name is Tower, Ed Kowalczyk. Very cool to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
I actually want to start really early with you. You're one of those guys that's basically had one job your entire life. You started playing music in junior high, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Guys got together around 13 or 14 in 8th grade, going into high school. Got a record deal right out of high school, a couple years after we graduated, about a year and a half. And I've been putting out records and touring since 1991.
So did you ever think, like, back then when you first got a record deal, did you ever have a plan B, like, I'm going to go be an accountant, no?
No, I was going to go to college and, had some scholarships, had that all lined up, and decided to defer for a year, try to get a record deal, defer for another year. And so I don't know, I don't think I'm still deferred. I don't think those scholarships are going to work anymore.
We've got a lot to cover in your career, and that you're one of the few artists ever that sold 20 million plus records. And really, you started out as a band of high school friends. This worked.
Yeah.
Your first album was about Eastern mysticism.
Sure.
And then we're on a Christian show now, so we're going to get a little more into that later. But just tell me about, I guess, the last couple years of your life that you were in a band, now you're a solo guy. And just kind of that transition.
Yeah, a couple years ago, I definitely came to a sort of an end of chapter moment in my life where I felt like, okay, I kind of lost my inspiration, lost my passion for it, and it kind of freaked me out. 'Cause I've always been a really, prolific writer and loved what I do, and I felt like I was going through the motions. Just needed a change, needed to some kind of growth needed to happen, and so I started to entertain the idea of doing a solo career, making a record as a solo artist, and as soon as I started to kind of entertain that, I got really excited, and really then every day was like this new sort of revelation of like these synchronicities and resources, and people came into my life, like the guys I met down in Austin that played on the record, to just tons of inspiration. And
basically it was like being 19 again, right?
Yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, I fell in love with the whole process again in a major way, and that took me all the way to late last year. I went to Austin, Texas, I mentioned, and recorded the record. Ended up collaborating with this amazing co-producer and writer named Greg Wattenberg for the song Single Grace, and a song called Stand. So that kind of came out of nowhere and was really fun. And we just started the world tour for this solo record, Alive, 2-3 weeks ago in Europe, and now we're in the States.
And it's really cool because this happens a lot with American bands, where you really become like a thing in Europe, and it takes the US like 3 or 4 years to get it after that. And so we're going to see here in just a minute is actually a European festival, right?
Yeah, this is the Bavarian Open Air Festival we did as a headliner a couple weeks ago in Holland.
And people are singing along in the video. Do you think they're actually like speak English, or they just kind of sing because they like it?
Oh, the Dutch are pretty, they have a major English-speaking vibe there, because it's a very international country, so if it's not their first, it's their close second language. So yeah, it's pretty, the lyric there has always had a pretty good reception, and they actually really get into it. I think because it's their second language, they kind of think about it in a different way, a little bit different, and it's cool.
So if you want to go ahead and set the song and the video up for us, the European Festival, it's called Selling the Drama.
Yeah, this is an oldie but a goodie from live.
And I mean, these are all your songs, but some of them were with a band and some of them were on your
exactly.
own.
This is just performing them with the solo band, which was, the whole show is about 50-50. I do like all the classics of my work in live, and of course about 9 or 10 from the new record.
In just 30 seconds, I mean, this is one of those songs that literally had to change your life because it's been such a huge hit. Just kind of where did it come from? Where was the inspiration?
Yeah, it was, the song went to college radio. I'll never forget it. It's like we kind of felt like, wow, if it goes, to college radio and we get a hit at college, we'll be so happy. And then it's like, ended up being just the beginning of this whole trip that, Throwing Copper went on, and songs, of course, like I Alone and Lightning Crashes, and so it was really this sort of, quiet, kind of subtle beginning that kind of, really ended up, like you said, changed our lives.
With Ed Kowalczyk on The Merge Out Loud, the song is Selling the Drama. Check out the video live in Holland. Hey, coming up on The Merge Out Loud, more with Ed Kowalczyk. We're going to talk about what it's like to have sold 20 million records and then start completely over as a solo artist. It's coming up on The Merge Out Loud. It's The Merge Out Loud with Ed Kowalczyk. Now, 2 years ago, you're talking about this transition from the band live into a solo career. And that's really a weird dynamic because you've sold 20 million records, which very few artists ever have attained that kind of success. You walk away from that and you kind of go back to being, like I was saying, a 19-year-old guy with a guitar a few years later. But you don't really get to just be like a 19-year-old guy with a guitar because you're Ed from live.
Right.
Yeah, so what was that like? I mean, you got to go through some insecurity there, right? Of what if this doesn't work?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I dealt with that in a funny way. I actually grabbed an acoustic guitar and went out and did, full-on just me and an acoustic guitar show for an hour and a half. I'd never done it. I'd done a bunch of it, promoting records. And of course, I write like that, but I never did full concerts. And so I kind of took the insecurity and took it even further to possibly, like this place where I'd never gone before, and you're standing up on stage and it's you're the whole thing, and what's, the capacities and talents that come out of that or need to emerge, they thankfully did. And I actually really fell in love with that. And so it was kind of a way I dealt with it. I kind of, let's just really go back to basics and do something new at the same time. And I created rediscovered a kind of intimacy with the lyric and with my fans that was really like going back to even prior to the beginning, because as soon as you write songs and they become these big band things, and the next thing you know, the PA's rocking and all the production's going, and that guy who actually sat in his bedroom and came up with this idea, you kind of forget about him. Well, this was a way of bringing him out, also letting people see that part of what I do in the process, and I was writing as well during that, so it was really inspirational for the lyric too, because I was in this direct, almost dialogue kind of environment with people. It was really cool.
And I actually want to go into the sound here because, there are bands that hang around for, you said you've been doing it since 1991, so you've got almost 20 years under your belt. Most bands that are still doing that, they exist, but basically they're on the county fair circuit, or, they're kind of playing in the summer. People hear 3 old songs they used to hear on the radio, and nothing new or relevant's really happening. You're one of the very few that has continued to make relevant music for 2 decades now and stay in the forefront of that. And also, you've got people like Daughtry who say, okay, my career is basically based on this dude right here. Did you know that was happening, or kind of when you look back at that and you're like, I was one of the people that helped create a rock sound that's still going on right now?
Well, I think, it feels great to hear that stuff. I don't think you can never imagine that's going to be the way your music's received over time, but it's great. I think just taking that sort of left of center kind of approach to music, going out, of course I love U2 and I love the early REM records, and I went and I always wanted to make music that people could think about as well as move them, in their hearts and emotions. And so I think just taking that approach really has weathered well. Of course the bands that I'm mentioning are legendary too. So it's kind of like, it just, when you keep that kind of universal aspect, but you're also giving people something they can really sink their teeth into and grow with, it has served to keep it in people's hearts and minds this long.
New solo record is called Alive. We're going to go ahead and check out a song here in a second called Zion.
Yeah.
Are these the ones that at this point in your life are the most close to your heart? Because you took the biggest risk on these, right?
Yes, I definitely, this record is the story in my own way of my faith and my sort of reconversion to Christianity and faith in Jesus. And so there's lots of biblical metaphors and that kind of thing. I'm pulling from all these places that are in my heart and I've grew up with, but now are like way more out on front, like of course Zion.
Yeah, just real quickly set up where the song came from, what it's about.
Yeah, this one was one I got really into, this was happening in my life spiritually, so I was like, well, I want to put this in a record. How do I do that? And so I went back to basics. I found Blind Willie Johnson and the Guitar Evangelist, and I also listened to Bob Dylan's gospel record, which nobody likes, I guess, but me. But it's awesome. And so I went back and did that, and I started this sort of blues kind of like, so I just wanted it to have that feel. And of course, Zion being a metaphor for, a holy place in heaven and where we go in prayer and inspirational and all that. So hopefully it's all in the song.
We're with Ed Kowalczyk right now. The song is Zion. Check out the video for it right now. It's the Merge Out Loud. Hey, coming up, more with Ed Kowalczyk on his faith on the Merge Out Loud. It's the Merge Out Loud with Ed Kowalczyk right now. The band live was officially together for, what, about 16 years?
It was closer to 20, actually.
Closer to
like
20
19,
years.
Yeah.
The first album that came out was actually all about Eastern mysticism. You're here now to talk about your faith in Jesus a little bit more. Those are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Tell me just kind of what happened in your life from when you're writing songs and believing that this thing is the truth to arriving to this song Grace, which we're going to do in just a minute here.
Sure. Well, like you said, I mean, I've always had an interest in, spirituality and, scriptures from all over the world. And I've always been an avid reader, and started that kind of, search in my life probably right after I graduated from high school. I was born and baptized and raised a Christian, so, but I kind of shelved it. I kind of went into a place in my life where I wanted to see and question and all of that. And it took me on, my own sort of, odyssey into all that. And like you mentioned, Krishnamurti and Eastern mysticism and sitting with Zen Buddhists and all that. And then just recently, the last few years, there was just a moment where I just fell in love with Jesus Christ. I have this really beautiful Byzantine crucifix icon that's an art piece that hangs on my wall. And it was just about a year ago, it struck me, I just believed. And so at that point, of course, the music started to really flow, and the direction for what I wanted it to be and what I wanted it to express became very, very palpable, and you have Alive now. And
I think that a lot of people would ask the question as you've gone along here. I mean, the first album was very Eastern. By the time you guys had really taken a step to, I guess what we call like a world-class artist or somebody that's known around the world, there was a lot of just content in the lyrics that could have been kind of translated towards Christianity.
Sure, yeah. Well, one of my favorite quotes that I read recently was that all search for truth is search for Christ. And I think that essentially when, at least for me personally, as I was going through, the seeking that I was doing, essentially I was seeking God, I was seeking the truth, and the fullness of it is in Jesus Christ, and that's what, like I mentioned a year ago, really kind of hit me, and that, I call it a reconversion just because I was kind of, raised that way, but it was just kind of buried or kind of, of my past. So. And
you really got started reading the Bible again, which is where
Absolutely.
This came from.
That,
what did you just wake up one morning and you're like, hey, I want to read the Bible?
Yeah, it was around that time, and it was funny because the Bible was a book that, I had much love and appreciation and honor for, but it didn't make that much sense to me. And in terms of what I was reading and everything else. And so after this experience, it was as if, it was a whole new language, and I was understanding it and having the blessings that were coming through it, were much more sort of profound.
And this is, the song we're going into is obviously one of the ones that really sums you up at this point. It's called Grace, shot in Belgium?
Leuven, Belgium, yeah.
Leuven, Belgium. Just real quick, set up the song, just where it came from in your life, and if you just want to tell us something about the video too.
Yeah, well, Grace, it really is great because it encapsulates, like you said, where I'm at. Also, I feel like it kind of touches a new depth of emotion and urgency in my vocal, and that to me is saying a lot because everybody's kind of always appreciated that about my delivery, and this is, I think, even more so. So that's what I'm hearing from the fans, which is great. Yeah, shot in Leuven, Belgium. The song itself was inspired kind of indirectly by all these images that were coming over the airwaves around the time of the Haitian earthquake. There were a few images that really struck me as, this incredible, of course, this tragedy, but then there's this sort of like white light kind of around like these moments of deep charity and a rescue or something. It was just a few things that really struck me. I thought, how can I put that into a song, what I'm feeling right now? Because, that I'm peering through this and seeing this is a kind of grace because, I'm not sure, you definitely have the two worldviews where say, oh, this is just horrible and that's it. Well, yes, but there's also this deep love coming through and this deep charity. So I wanted to take those two worldviews, smash them together, and put them in a song and try to make sense out of it. And
it became a music video.
It became Grace.
Ed Kowalczyk on the Merge Out Loud. This is called Grace. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Ed Kowalczyk, and you're watching The Merge Out Loud.
Coming up on the Merge Out Loud with Ed Kowalczyk, we talk about his work with relief organization World Vision. It's the Merge Out Loud. My name is Tower. We're with Ed Kowalczyk right now. You have been working at least for the last year with relief organization World Vision. It's an organization that I've done some fundraising for through athletic activities, and just something that's really near and dear to my heart. Just tell me, like, how'd you get plugged in there?
Well, first off, I read The Hole in Our Gospel first, and that was, turned me on to World Vision itself, and I started to sponsor kids right away. It just really hit me hard, and so as that, it kind of grew organically out of that, because I found their website, saw this incredible artist affiliate program they have, and I thought, wow, I'm going on tour. I want to do that, So made some calls, and now they're on tour with us. A great guy named Jeffrey. He sets up a table every night. Of course, I make an appeal from stage, and we get kids sponsored. We have 24 so far on this tour that have been sponsored.
That's which is amazing in itself. And that, I mean, as much as you've done with music, that you've connected 24 kids with people who are going to give them food and education is.
It's an incredible feeling, and it's just they're a great organization, and they're like I said, their artist program's really just well thought out, and it's really unique.
Yeah, when Flyleaf was on here, they're also a World Vision band, and it's cool to talk to those guys about it. Do you ever get worried that maybe people are going to think this is just like a vanity thing for you, that, every celebrity's got their charity, and that people won't really
not
get
really,
what it is?
because it is so near and dear to me, and I think part of my appeal and part of how I do it in the show is really, I think it really shows how authentic it is, and so it's a great thing, because my music anyway kind of has always tried to have a community effect in that moment, and try to bring people together with it. So this just kind of deepens that and takes it outside the venue and into the lives of children that really need help.
I want to talk about just kind of what happens next. The record's called Alive. It's been out for several months now. Yeah, several months now. You're playing club tours, basically, which is cool because you're like an up-and-coming artist again. Mm-hmm. Kind of what happens, or what do you hope happens in the next year, next 2 years, as you start in this new phase of your career?
It's interesting. I have had so many amazing experiences, and I'm so blessed and to have the life that I've led. That every day I'm so fulfilled at every level now. You mentioned our World Vision connection, and just spiritually and at every level, I feel that I can't imagine what I'd add to it. So I'm just going to continue to kind of just enjoy the ride. Because that being said, I'm sure we're going to tour into next year and get to the West Coast, which we haven't done yet. Of course, we're going to Australia and New Zealand later in the year. And just continue. I feel like I'm at the tip of the iceberg with all these things, and I'm just having more fun than ever.
And you've been writing songs since you were in high school. Do you just continually write, or are you just really focusing on getting these songs out there?
One of the casualties of the road for me is that I just have to be at home to write music. I've tried it on the road, and it's just like, okay, I can't do this.
People think like the whole bus life is so luxurious, and it's really awful.
It can, yeah. I mean, sleeping on a bed that moves is sort of like, okay, now how am I supposed to write? I'm so tired. But no, I'm hoping to get back in the studio towards the end of this year, November, December, and just continue to write. Because it is one of the deeper parts of my passion.
Ed Kowalczyk, it's been awesome to have you on the show.
Pleasure.
I'd love to get you back in a year or so and just talk about where you are.
Absolutely.
The record is called Alive, if you want to check that out. This is the Merge Out Loud.